Good morning, ma'am and classmates. And this morning, we will present the characteristics and the flora and fauna of the rainforest biome. To kickstart the presentation, let us have Mr. Charles Joshua Rodriguez.
Now, what are rainforests? Next slide, please. A rainforest is an area of tall, mostly evergreen trees and a high amount of rainfall. Rainforests are the Earth's oldest living ecosystem. Some rainforests surviving in their present form for at least 70 million years. Rainforest covers only 6% of the Earth's surface, but rainforest is home to more than half of the world's plant and animal species. The reason why it is called a rainforest is because of the high amount of rainfall it gets every year. Next slide, please. Now, for the layers of the rainforest. First is the emergent layer. The tallest trees that can be found in the forest are called the emergent, towering as much as 200 feet above the forest floor with trunks that measure up to 16 feet around. Most of these trees are broad-leaved, hardwood evergreens. Sunlight is plentiful in emergent layer. Animals that can be found in this layer are eagles, monkeys, bats, and butterflies. Next is the canopy layer. Beneath the emergent layer is the canopy layer. This is the primary layer of the forest and forms a roof over the two remaining layers. The canopy blocks wind, rainfall, and sunlight, creating a humid, still, and dark environment below. The canopy trees have smooth oval leaves that come to a point. It is a maze of leaves and branches. Many animals live in this area since food is abundant. Those animals include snakes, toucans, and tree frogs. Located several meters below the canopy layer is the understory layer. Little sunshine reaches this area, so the plants have to grow larger leaves to reach the sunlight. The plants in this area seldom grow to 12 feet. Many animals live here, including jaguars, red-eye tree frogs, and leopards. This layer is also the home of different insects. Below the understory layer is the forest floor. The forest floor is the darkest of all rainforest layers, making it extremely difficult for plants to grow. As a result, since hardly any sunlight reaches the forest floor, things begin to decay quickly. A leaf that might take 1 year to decompose in a regular climate will disappear in 6 weeks. Animals like giant anteater lives in this layer. Next slide, please. Short overview of some examples of rainforests. First is the Amazon rainforest. Amazon rainforest is the world's largest tropical rainforest. Amazon rainforest is also known as Amazonia or Amazon jungle. The forest is estimated to be covered by 390 billion individual trees divided into 16,000 species. Some of the species found in this region include 2.5 million insects, about 2,500 mammals and birds, and 10,000 of plants. Next slide, please. Next is the Congo forest. Congo rainforest is the second largest rainforest in the world. The Congo rainforest is widely recognized for its high level of biodiversity, characterized by more than 600 tree species and 10,000 animal species. Some of its famous residents include forest elephants, gorillas, chimpanzees, okapi, and lions. Next slide, please. Next is the Valdivian temperate rainforest. Valdivian temperate rainforest is famous for its endemic plants, trees, and animal species. Valdivian temperate forest is named after Valdivia. Trees that found in Valdivian temperate rainforests are made up of mixed forest and temperate broadleaves. Next slide, please. Now, for the general characteristics of rainforests. The characteristics of the rainforest that makes it one of the oldest ecosystem is as follows. First is the heavy rainfall. One of the primary characteristics of the rainforest ecosystem is that it receives an average rainfall between 80 to 430 inches. The main factor that influence heavy rainfall in the rainforest ecosystem are the transpiration process, increase in humidity, and the formation of clouds. Next is the largest biodiversity. In terms of biodiversity, the rainforest ecosystem is one of the most significant natural habitats compared to other habitats in the world. Rainforest is home for millions of plant and animal species. Both species living together makes the rainforest biodiversity rich. Next is the warm climate and low latitude. Most of the rainforests are characterized by warm climatic conditions throughout the year. The temperature in rainforest ecosystem ranges from 72 to 93 degrees. As the rainforest situated between the tropics, most of the rainforests are found in areas near the equator. Next is huge variety of flora and fauna. Rainforest ecosystem provides favorable climate conditions for the survival of animal and plant species. Rainforest is a treasure of huge variety of mammals, amphibians, insects, freshwater animals, and etc. As the vegetation of the rainforest remains, it will continue to support millions of plants, trees, medicinal plant species, and etc. Next, and lastly, the soil and nutrients of the rainforest ecosystem. The soil that can be found in the rainforest appears in red due to the presence of many amounts of iron content. The organic matter decomposes faster due to the moist floor of the rainforest. The decomposition forms a layer of humus that provides nutrients for plant to grow. Now, to discuss the two types of rainforest, let us have Mr. Rock Eram Bulataw.
Thank you for that wonderful report, Mr. Rodriguez. So, for the types of rainforest, next slide, please. So, we have tropical and temperate. There are two types of rainforest. Tropical and temperate rainforests share certain characteristics, like, for example, most trees flare at the base. Vegetation is dense, tall, and very green. Both types of rainforests are rich in plant and animal species. Although the diversity is greater in the tropical rainforests are found closer to the equator, and temperate rainforests are found farther north near coastal areas. Rainfall falls regularly throughout the year, and even more moisture comes from the coastal fog that hovers among the trees. Next slide, please. So next is the characteristics of tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforests have distinct characteristics that support a wide variety of different species. This means that they have a high biodiversity. The biotic or living components of the ecosystem and the abiotic or non-living components of the ecosystem depend on one another. So it goes like a change in one leads to a change in the other. So for the first one, we have climate. The climate is very warm with an average daily temperature of 28 degrees Celsius. The temperature never drops below 20 degrees Celsius and rarely exceeds 35 degrees Celsius. And it is also consistent all year round, which means that there are no seasons. Next is the soil. A thin layer of fertile soil is found at the surface where the dead leaves decompose. And due to heavy rainfall, the nutrients are quickly washed out of the soil. Next is the plants and animals. The warm and very wet climate provides perfect conditions for plant growth. Many different animals, birds, and insects are supported by the biodiversity of plant species. and species have adapted to the conditions of the rainforest. Trees and plants have shallow reaching roots to absorb nutrients from the thin fertile layer in the soil. Next, the structure of tropical rainforests. As a tropical rainforest is made up of the following layers, which is the emergence, canopy, under canopy, and shrub level. The tropical rainforest is a hot, moist biome where it rains all year long. It is known for its dense canopies of vegetation that form three different layers. The top layer or canopy contains giant trees that grows to heights of 75 meters or more. The middle layer or understory is made up of vines, smaller trees, ferns, and palms. Next slide, please. So we have here the examples of tropical rainforest. So for the first example, we have the Daintree rainforest. The Daintree tropical rainforest is found on the northeast coastal of Queensland in Australia, named after Richard Daintree. It covers around 2,600 square kilometers. The area between Bloomfield River and Mossman Gorge is entirely covered by the forest and also has the Daintree National Park. Its main river is the Daintree River. Next, please. So, the Southeast Asian rainforest. The forest is found in Asia, covering Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, and the Malay Peninsula. It once covered even greater area in Asia, but deforestation destroyed most of regions of the rainforest. The forest is home to many rare birds, mammals, amphibians, and reptiles. Next, please. So, proceeding with the abiotic factors, the tropical rainforest, let us have Mr. Gyrotropia.
Thank you, Mr. Belataw. For the abiotic factor of the tropical rainforest, an abiotic factor is an non-living part of an ecosystem that shape its environment. So for the abiotic factor of the tropical rainforest, we have the sun, soil, rainfall, and temperature. For the sun, um, the sun is one abiotic factor of the tropical rainforest. It provides heat for all the biotic parts of the rainforest. It also provides light, and the light thing, the last thing it provides is food for plants. The second one is soil. Soil does a lot for a tropical rainforest. The first thing that it does is that it gives the plant food and help to grow. This is also helps the food chain. So without soil, the food chain would fail. Soil is an also important part of the tropical rainforest. Soil in the tropical rainforest is generally very poor in quality. All soluble nutrients are washed away by the heavy daily rainfall in the regions. The third abiotic factors is the rainfall. Rainfall is an also important part of the tropical rainforest. One thing that rainfall does, it provides water for animals. This let animals live. It also provides water to the soil, which is then given to the plant so that the animals can eat the plant. The rain lets the plants grow. And for the last abiotic factor is the temperature. Temperatures plays a big role in the tropical rainforest environment. The temperature in the tropical rainforest is usually warm. The average temperature is 7 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's it for the abiotic factor in tropical rainforests. Now let's have Mr. Hans Cedric Bugarin to tackle the flora and fauna of tropical rainforest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gyrotopia, for that very informative discussion of the abiotic factors of the tropical rainforest. Now for the flora present in the tropical rainforest, but first, flora is the collective species of plants and flowering plants inside a tropical rainforest. So, next slide, please. So, for the flora in the tropical rainforest, it is covered in lush layers of vegetations. It is also home to 15 million species of plants, and two-thirds of the world's flowering plants are found in tropical rainforest. The combination of lots of moisture and consistent year-round warm weather makes tropical rainforests particularly lush areas of plant life. It is estimated that tropical rainforests are home to a staggering 15 million different species of plants and animals, making them some of the world's most diverse locations. Almost two-thirds of all the world's flowering plants are found in rainforests. Next slide, please. For the layers of vegetation, just a recap. So rainforests typically have three major levels of plant growth, depending on their height to the ground and how much sun and moisture reaches them. Because there are many large trees in the rainforest that receive year-round sunlight and precipitation, the canopy cover does not change during the year as it does in other rainforest biomes. For the first layer, we have the emergent, next is the canopy, and the understory. So each layer is a unique biotic community containing different plants, only the emergent layer, which have a unique tropical rainforest, while the others can be seen in temperate rainforest. Now, next slide, please. For the emergent layer, this layer contains a small number of very large trees called the emergents, which grow above the general canopy reaching heights of 45 to 55 meters. Although on occasion a few species will grow to 70 to 80 meters tall, the trees need to be able to withstand hot or high temperatures and strong winds that occur above the canopy in some areas. Most of the rainforest's largest trees are found in the emergent layer. Next slide, please. Next slide. No, back in the previous slide. Um, Back again. Now, for the emergent layer, here are some examples of the tree species in the tropical rainforest. So, one we have Balisia elegans, which is a species of flowering plants in the legume family. Next is the Dipteryx panamensis, Hyornima alcorneoides, and we also have Hymenolobium mesoamerican, and the Lycitis ampla, which is a type of a woody tree. And lastly, we have Terminalia oblonga, or commonly known as guava tree. Now, for the canopy layer, next slide, please. The canopy layer has the highest level of rainforest. It is also a roof formed by the branches and leaves of the area's largest trees. Most of the trees reach over 120 feet in height. So the trees in the canopy layer combined with their dense cover can mean that little to no sunlight reaches lower areas of the forest. Trees at the highest level must be able to tolerate the extreme sunlight and changing wind patterns, wherein the canopy layer blocks much of that 100 inches of rain despite rainforest's frequent and heavy downpours. Now, for the example of the vegetation in the canopy layer, we also have large evergreen trees, which typically dominates the sunlight of the rainforest canopy. We also have orchids, some bromeliads, and several types of moss and lichens are also found in the canopy level, living in harmony with the largest trees. This type of plant survive through a symbiotic relationship with other large trees. Some of the bromeliads traps water, which houses a micro ecosystem. Many plants like orchids and bromeliads are epiphytes, drawing their water and nutrients from the air. Now for the understory layer, from the previous slide, the understory layer includes mid-range trees and smaller plants. Typically, they receive only about 5% of the sunlight in the area. Plants in this area don't typically grow over 10 feet or 3 meters. Because of the thick canopy layer, the understory is relatively dim and dark. Also, this is also the plants not growing to its largest state because of the lack of sunlight. Next slide, for the vegetation under the understory layer, we have some shrubs, herbs, and vines. So the vines tend to crawl up to the canopy trees in a fight to receive more sunlight to survive and grow. We also have strangle figs, which is common to other countries. And this strangle fig is a plant that has adapted to the lower amounts of sunlight that reach the rainforest under layers. When birds eat the tree's fruit, they spread seeds through waves and by dropping them onto the branches of higher trees. This plant is able to take root on the host tree branch, drop a long root to the ground, and eventually strangles the host trees as it grows by taking over its sunlight. We also have lichens and moss. Back to the slide. For the lichens and moss, understory plants have evolved to live with less sunlight and fewer nutrients than their canopy counterparts. They grow larger, wider leaves to catch any sunlight or water that trickles down. The flowers are smaller and paler and do not always grow at the end of the plant branches. Instead, in order to aid pollination, plants may grow their flowers on their stem or trunk to attract greater attention. Many of the flowers, like ginger and passion flower, are very brightly colored. These adaptations come down even to smell. Flowers pollinated by hawk moths, rather, for example, have a heavy, sweet fragrance, while those pollinated by bats have a minty, sweet odor. The Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute says. Now, next slide. For the ground stratum, the ground layer includes all of the vegetation that receives the last amount of light and its lowest to the ground. It is estimated that only 2% of the sunlight actually reaches the rainforest floors, which results to it being covered in leaf litter or decaying composts. The ground in a rainforest is almost always covered by shade due to the canopy, so vegetation is more sparse and restricted at the ground layer. The hot and humid conditions allow dead leaves to decompose quickly, sending nutrients back into the soil. But in the tropical rainforest, the plants grow so fast that they quickly consume the nutrients from the soil, and the leftover nutrients are then leached away by abundant rainfall, which leaves the soil infertile. Next slide, please. Now, you will find a few plants on the bottom layer of the forest due to lack of sunlight. So, one is fungus. The fungus is the most common plant life at the ground level because the fungus is able to thrive in dark, moist areas. This is often found all over the ground layer near decaying organic matter and on trees. In the tropical rainforest, most trees in the rainforest have wide buttressed roots. This is to support them as they grow incredibly tall. Some can grow over 200 feet, as there is great competition for sunlight. The leaves of many trees are waxy and have drip tips to allow water to run off them. It is so that the water does not gather on leaves and cause them to rot and allows water to reach the roots on the forest floor. Leaf stems are also flexible to allow leaves to move with the sun to maximize photosynthesis. So that's it for the flora. Fauna means the collective system of species of animals found in the tropical rainforest. So rainforests are home to organisms big and small. So this is due to their consistent warm temperatures, ample amount of moisture, and incredibly vast amounts of plant life. There are more living organisms in tropical rainforests than there are in any other biome of the world. The smallest organism in the rainforest are bacteria. These tiny creatures make quick work of decomposing fallen leaves, wood, and other dead organic material, which is different from other forests in that there is little to no permanent layer of organic nutrients covering the soil. Next slide, please. So, for some examples of the fauna living in the tropical rainforest, starting off with the small organisms. So, it is fascinating. One of the fascinating things about some of the animals of the tropical rainforest is that because the trees and plant life stay lush and fertile all year round, there are literally animal species in tropical rainforests who never touch the ground, remaining in the trees for their entire lives, like the sloth. For those that do live in the ground, the amazing vegetation from cloud cover to ground cover allows for numerous places to find protection from predators and the elements, as well as a constant source of food and nutrients. So some of the species of animals are monkeys, sloths, which are creatures that move incredibly slow and primarily hang from the trees, using their movement and body as camouflage among the trees. Sloths have also become attractive for certain types of algae to grow on, further camouflaging the spots and allowing algae to reach nutrients and also providing a small or micro ecosystem for them. Next are snakes. So large boa constrictors often live in the understory stratum amongst the trees. Smaller species often can be found on the ground layer. And we also have some rodents, a variety of insects, some frogs like the red-eyed frogs, birds, and several species of birds live in the canopy layer of the forest, receiving food and shelter from the canopy tree cover. So toucans, for example, have adopted their distinctive beaks as a way to reach tree fruit from a distance, since the birds are often too large to settle on these tree branches. Some examples also of the birds are parrots, eagles, and owls. Now for the rainforest medium to large size animals. Next slide, please. We have some gorillas, rhinoceros, and leopards, and jaguars. So they typically live in the understory layer of the rainforest. So tropical rainforests contain some of the most diverse and unique populations in the world. This diversity suggests that tropical rainforest plants and animals live in an easy life. In fact, the opposite is true. Tropical rainforests provide a variety of niches because of the many challenging conditions found there. That concludes the discussion of the flora and fauna of the tropical rainforest. Now, to describe the characteristic of rainforest, or temperate rainforest rather, we have Miss Ray Dayan Santos.
Thank you for that very informative discussion. So, moving on with the characteristics of the temperate rainforest. Temperate rainforests are coniferous or broadleaf forests found in temperate zones, which are characterized by mild climates or temperatures. In general, these areas do not experience extremely cold or extremely hot temperatures. Temperate rainforests have two distinct seasons, one long wet winter and a short drier summer. In addition to that, temperate rainforests also experience an extended growing season. As opposed to tropical rainforests, these type of rainforests experience major seasonal changes. Animals living in the temperate rainforest must develop adaptation to the ever-changing seasons. Animals that are not able to adapt migrate in the winter. The average annual precipitation of a temperate rainforest biome is 200 centimeters. In much warmer areas, the average precipitation goes up to about 350 centimeters annually. Temperate rainforests are usually located within temperate regions between the tropics and the poles, but are mostly located in coastal mountainous areas. These geographic conditions help create areas of high rainfall. Although they are not as biologically diverse as tropical rainforests, they are, however, a home to an incredible amount of biological productivity, storing up to 500 to 200, to 2,000 metric tons of leaves, woods, and other organic matter. Moving on with the structure of temperate rainforests. The temperate rainforest has three layers. They are the canopy, understory, and forest floor. The canopy is the top layer. Annually, these conifers can grow up to 300 feet. There is also a variety of bird species that depend on this layer. However, fewer animals can be found in the canopy of a temperate rainforest compared to the tropical rainforest. Next is the understory. It is the middle layer of the temperate rainforest, which is covered of small shade-loving trees. Last but not the least is the forest floor. It is the lowest layer of the temperate rainforest, which is filled with lichens, mosses, small plants, decomposing conifer needles, leaves, branches, and many more. Most of the animals in the temperate rainforest live near the forest floor. Moving on with the some of the examples of temperate rainforests. First example is the Appalachian temperate rainforest. It is located in the southern Appalachian Mountains of the eastern United States. It consists of tall trees, deciduous plants, and has a cool and mild climate with an annual low temperature of 4.4 degrees Celsius. Climate differs across the ecoregion due to large variations in elevation, physiography, and latitude. Um, Next is the Tongass National Forest. It is the largest intact temperate rainforest in the world, along with its vast woods. This rainforest features up to 17,000 miles of pristine creeks, rivers, and lakes. It also has wetlands, mountains, and has 19 designated wilderness areas located within its borders, which is more than any other national forest. By absorbing and insulating vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the Tongass National Forest benefits both humans and wildlife across the world. Last but not the least is the Colchian rainforest. These are found in the southeast corner of the Black Sea along Turkey and Georgia. These are relic forests that have survived the glacial cycles of the Ice Age. The Celtic rainforests are among the oldest nemeral broadleaf forests globally and are highly humid in climate. While their rich evergreen understories distinguish them apart from other temperate forests, they also have a remarkably dense mosaic of forest types. Now, moving on to the abiotic factors in temperate rainforests.
Thank you, Mr. Miss Santos, for an amazing report. For the abiotic factor of temperate rainforest, we have sunlight, water, precipitation, soil, temperature. For the sunlight, the temperate forest does not receive a lot of sunlight, which affect the plant and their growth and the way they reproduce. Plants in the temperate forest can manage, however, to live by all of the rainfall in the rainforest. For the water because these forests are mostly alongside with ocean with comparatively warm currents. The the defining abiotic factor that distinguish temperate rainforests is water, especially water in the form of precipitation determines what species thrives in the environment. Temperate rainforests receive between 150 to 500 centimeter of water. For the precipitation, in the temperate forest, it rains up to 100 inch per year. Then more moisture comes from the fog that hover above the trees, unlike the tropical rainforests, which are warm and moist. Temperate rainforests are cool but also have moderate temperature. For the soil is nutrient rich because there are large amount of decaying organic matters. These organic matters from leaves, dead vegetation, and insect is consumed by mushroom, fungi, bacteria, and insect. And for the temperature, the average annual temperature is about 0 degree Celsius because of the nearby ocean. But the warmer part of the temperate rainforest have the average temperature that are around 20 degrees Celsius. And next slide, please. For the flora in the temperate forest as opposed to tropical rainforest. Temperate rainforest consists of only two layers of vegetation. First is the emergent and the canopy. The understory layer and the forest floor consists of less vegetation. The tallest trees in the rainforest have their leaves typically approximately 15 to 30 centimeter from the ground, including a dense layer of small trees and scrubs beneath at about 5 to 10 meters. And this is the real reason the soil in the temperate forest receive a lot more light compared to the tropical rainforest. The undergrowth in temperate rainforest is lush, consisting mainly of mosses, lichens, and ferns. And next slide, please. And the main kinds of trees found in the temperate forest biome includes oaks, beeches, walnut trees, lime trees, aspen, elms, birch. For the oaks are trees species that are able to grow up to 40 meters tall. They have impressive lifespan to 500 to 1,000 years. Oak trees are highly valued by humans since they are used to make furniture, timbers, stairs, railways, and parks. And for the beeches, these trees can grow up to 40 meters tall and consist of huge dome shape. They bear fruits which are commonly known as beech fruit. Beeches do well in wet condition with clayer and airy soil, but far from harsh winter frosts. For the third uh, trees, we have walnut trees. These are large tree species that grows up to 20 meters tall. They bear stone fruit which are naturally fleshy. Walnut trees are found almost everywhere. For the next trees, we have lime trees are characteristically long trunk and elegant can grow up to 30 meters tall. Lime trees also grow wild and can be found in the river banks, rocks, and sunny slope in areas of Central Europe. And the next one we have aspen trees. These species are generally medium sized, can grow up to 25 meters tall. They experience fast growth. They thrive in warm and sunny regions. For the birches, we have it originated in Southeast Asia and Europe and thrive in sandy and peaty soil. They like areas with plenty of sunlight and mostly grow in a small group of mountains and highly hilly regions together with broadleaf and coniferous trees. And for the next slide, please. For the fauna in the temperate rainforest, we have uh, compared to the tropical rainforest biomes, temperate rainforest biomes harbor very mammals due to the absence of series of sophisticated layers and the fact that the vegetation is seasonal. In summer months, the animal species of the ecosystem feed particularly on wing seeds and walnuts that keep for a long duration. Fruits produced by the rose tree, apple trees, hawthorn, and other almost always reap at the same time are chiefly used in the course of summer for fat storage. There are huge diversity of life in the temperate rainforest biomes such as frogs, turtles, insect, birds, spiders, salamander are just some of the animals varieties that can be found in the temperate rainforest. Species like cardinals, broad-winged hawks, pleated woodpeckers, and slowly owls exist in this biome. Some of the animals present in this biome include raccoons, porcupines, red foxes, and white-tailed deer. Also, the largest carnivores found in the temperate forest are bears. Many different species of bears can be found in the various temperate rainforests of the world. They include black, brown, and grizzly bears. And let us now learn the importance of rainforest and how important threats to impose it by listening to Hans Bugarin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tropia. Now for the importance of rainforest. So, next slide, please. After all of the vivid beauty that comes with the great diversity of plants and animals, rainforests also play a practical role in keeping our planet healthy. So here are some of the major roles that rainforest plays in keeping the biotic and abiotic factors under the state of equilibrium. So first, we have the habitat for animals and plants. Tropical rainforests contain over 30 million species of plants and animals. That is actually half the Earth's wildlife, and at least two-thirds of it is plant species. There are also many more thousands of rainforest plants and animal species still waiting to be discovered. Next, one is indigenous peoples' ancestral territory. Many indigenous people have been living in harmony with the rainforest for thousands of years, depending on it for their food, shelter, and medicine. When oil and logging companies come to remove vast areas of forest, they bring diseases which the indigenous people have no resistance to, threatening their survival. Often, they are also forced to move away from their homes to unfamiliar places, sometimes even being killed in the process. Next one, the climate regulation. Rainforests store water like a huge sponge. In fact, it is believed that the Amazonian forest and some other forests in the world store half or over half the Earth's rainwater. Rainforest trees draw water from the forest floor and release it back into the atmosphere in the form of swirling mist and clouds. Without rainforests continually recycling huge quantities of water, feeding the rivers, lakes, and irrigation systems, droughts would become more common, potentially leading to widespread famine and disease. Next, prevention of soil erosion. So, surprisingly, soil in the rainforest is very poor in nutrients. This is because the nutrients are stored in the vast number of trees and plants rather than in the soil. Tree roots bind the soil together, while the canopy protects the soil from being damaged by heavy rains. When a tree dies and its trunk falls to the forest floor, it decays and the nutrients it contains are recycled. However, if trees are removed from the forest, the nutrients are removed with it. The unprotected soil is then simply washed away in heavy rains, causing blockage and floods in lowland rivers while leaving upland rivers dry. For the last one, you have rainforest pharmacy. So it may surprise you to know that more than 25% of our modern medicines originate from the tropical forest plants. Even so, we have only learned how to use about 8% of these amazing plants. So imagine the possibilities if we could learn how to experiment and use the remaining 99%. Now, that's for the importance of the rainforest. Moving on with the threats. So even if rainforest provides us several benefits and help us sustain life, we have caused so much damage that we pose extreme dangers for the existence of the living organism and destruction of the forest itself. Here are some of the threats that we pose towards rainforests around the world. One, we have ranching and agriculture. Rainforests around the world are continuously cut down to make room for raising crops, particularly soy and cattle farming. So this has been exacerbated in recent years as many parts of the world have emerged from poverty such as in Asia, Africa, and South America. Every citizen deserves the right to live a dignified life full of opportunities, but unfortunately, the rate of population growth and specifically the rate of meat consumption is having a drastic impact on rainforest. These growing industries also displace small farmers, forcing them into forested areas which they must clear to sustain themselves. Next, we have commercial fishing. Many culture and groups of people consider fishing as their main source of livelihood and source of food. The amount of fish needed to feed a growing population, however, may lead to overfishing, especially if large industries are harvesting fish in order to export to foreign markets and countries. In many parts of the world, large industrial trawlers armed with gill nets scoop up entire schools of fish in an entirely unsustainable attempt to bring food to market. Next, we have biopiracy and smuggling. People take plants and animals from rainforests to sell abroad as pets, food, and medicinal um, matter. So foreigners do not share the enormous profits from these products with the country of origin, and the trade in these animals led to declines in wild populations, normally affecting animals already threatened by the habitat destruction and pollution. Now for poaching. A lot of people have been illegally hunting animals to sell as food and raw materials for finished products, especially in Asian parts. So rainforests and animals are being um, caught and hunt and being sold to countries needing it for their medicinal properties also. So next one we have damming. Large hydroelectric projects funded by the international aid and development organizations, for example, like the World Bank have led to widespread forest loss. Besides inundating large tracts of rainforest and killing off local wildlife, the dams have the effect of destroying aquatic habitats and affecting fish populations, displacing indigenous peoples, and adding carbon to the atmosphere. So whatever threat it is connected to each other. So next one we have logging. So logging, hardwood trees provide wood for furniture, building materials, and charcoal. So without trees to hold it in place, soil washes into the river and smothers the fish, which results to their death. Working in remote forest areas, loggers often use false permits, ignore limitations of legal permits, cut species protected by law, and steal from protected areas and indigenous lands. These are often small or medium-scale operations that are able to avoid detection because the remoteness of the logging locations, the weak presence of the federal environmental agencies, and a complex chain of custody and cutting, hauling, and transporting the logs. Last one, we have mining. Many everyday items are made from minerals mined in the rainforest basins. Fish die when miners wash harmful chemicals and sediments into rivers. Mining operations often necessitate the construction of access roads into remote areas, enabling the loggers, the poachers, and some ranchers access to lands otherwise inaccessible. Lastly, let us tackle and find out how we can conserve our precious rainforest from Miss Raylian Santos.
Thank you for that wonderful and very specific discussion. Now, moving on with the rainforest conservation. The world's rainforests are currently disappearing at a rate of 6,000 acres every hour, which is about 4,000 football fields per hour. When these forests are cut down, the plants and animals that live in the forest are destroyed, and some species are at risk of being made extinct. To conserve and prevent this from happening, we can help by reducing paper and wood consumption and purchasing recycled products and tree-free paper alternatives if possible. In this way, we can reduce the pressure on our remaining forests. We can also buy fair trade products made by the indigenous people to help preserve and protect sustainable livelihoods. We may also look for opportunities to volunteer by starting out locally. Contributing our personal time and energy can make a big difference in rainforest conservation. In addition to that, supporting rainforest organizations and foundations with a vision and mission to protect and save not only the rainforest but the environment as a whole. Last but not the least is to share news on social media. In this simple way, we can help spread awareness and inspire people to join and support the cause on conserving our rainforests and environment. And that is all for our presentation. Thank you for listening, and for our references.